Finding the enemy was the job of the Long-Range Reconnaissance Patrols, or LRRPs, who were covertly inserted by helicopter behind enemy lines, where stealth, concealment, and caution were their ally in a deadly game of cat and mouse.
The difference between infantry, straight-leg infantry, and recon, or LRRPs, if you will, or your job was literally to go out and hunt other men down.
We would go in and see who was in there, see what they were doing, what kind of weapons they had, what was the Army, what was the strength of the unit, what the morale was. You know, you look for stuff like if they were leaving, which they never did, leave equipment behind.
Bunker systems, footprints, smells, sounds, quiet when you're out in the middle of the jungle, and things all of a sudden would get dead quiet.
What our job was to make, when we see the enemy, we make contact. And then we call back, and they'll fly the GIs out, you know, to combat the enemy.
A normal infantry line company of the LZ would be prepped with Cobra gunships and maybe even artillery, and then they'd move in. Well, we basically went in hot. And what we would do is the day before, the team leader and maybe the assistant team leader would do an overflight of our AO, which is our area of operations. And they would pick a place where we were going to be picked up and then a place where we were going to be dropped off. And then we would be briefed on what we were going to do, if it was a trail watch, ambush mission, or a censoring device monitoring. And then we would get in the choppers. There'd be a couple of, I guess you call them fathom choppers that would go up that would, we'd do some false insertions at first. They'd go around different areas, maybe outside the AO in that area, and do false insertions first, and then we'd get the go-ahead and we'd head in. Ahead of time, we would decide if we were all going to get out on one side or if we're going to split up in 3 on one side and 3 on the other side, depending on lots of times where we were being dropped off in the situation. We'd get there, we'd be standing on the skids, and the chopper would go in, drop us off and take off, and then we'd go out maybe 100 yards, 200 yards away from the where we were dropped off, the LZ. We ran 6-man teams. So you had a point man, a radio man, you had somebody that took up the rear, and normally your team leader would be in between there, and your assistant team leader would also be in that line somewhere. And then your other 2 guys would be on the side, would have your flanks, your right and left flank. You just have to move very slowly. You move the branches out of the way very slowly. You take 1 foot forward very slowly, the other one at the same time. You're trying to watch in front to make sure you aren't all of a sudden opening yourself up to a huge clearing where there might be NVA sitting there or something. Normally, I wore flight gloves because maybe like if you're going through bamboo or even the elephant grass, your hands would really get cut up, and of course, in a tropical type atmosphere, they can get infected and things like that. So I always wore flight gloves just to help me keep my hands from getting infected. At that time, most of the Army there didn't have camouflage. The Marines, some of them did. So we were the only units that actually had it. We had camouflage fatigues, tiger fatigues, and every once in a while we'd wear black pajamas. Walking point, I think maybe twice I did that. Normally we carried what were called LRRP rations, which were freeze-dried, like chicken and rice, and we had one that was, they called it chili con carne, but we called it bullet beans because the little beans never got soft. They were always like peanuts. And water, lots of water. The only thing we would take in C rations is maybe the cans of fruit. We tried to not have any cans as much as possible because they made rattling noises and that kind of thing.
Each LRRP team had a point man who used his eyes, ears, and instincts to clear the way for the rest of the team.
He walked through on missions, whether it be through trails or through the jungle, and my was to keep an eye on front, watch out for booby traps, and of course enemy soldiers, the NVA, and just more or less getting things cleared out of the way for the rest of the team to come through, whether it be elephant grass or thick triple canopy, and just move as quietly as I possibly could.
Another role of the LRRPs was intelligence gathering for American command.
The intelligence would say that there's heavy troop movement down a high-speed trail, and they would decide that we wanted to do an ambush on that. So we would set up 12 across. We'd set up claymores. Some of them we would daisy chain, and we'd have an M60, and everybody would have an assigned area of scope or area that they were supposed to fire into, and normally the team leader or somebody else would be the person that once they blew the claymores, we blew the ambush. After the ambush was done, we'd have maybe one person on each end would take each end of the trail for trail watch, and then we would go in and search the bodies, go through their clothes, get maps, any kind of information we could find that they would have that would help identify where troop movements were, what kind of soldiers they were, of course, weapons. We'd take the weapons back, and then we would call in a contact and then get picked up, hopefully picked up by the choppers. Trail watch would be all we were supposed to do would be the same type of intelligence as that there's intelligence that there's heavy movement going down this trail. Our job would be move up, watch the trail, basically gather intelligence. Who are they? What kind of troops are they? NVA, VC, what kind of uniforms they're wearing, what kind of weapons they had, ages, if they looked fresh or looked like they'd been beaten up troops, and what direction they were going, and that kind of thing.
As dangerous as LRRP missions were, where they left off, Special Operations Forces picked up.